Welcome to the Love, Sex, and Leadership podcast, where you can discover simple tantric teachings to embody your true power, awaken your soul's wisdom, and live an inspired life as a natural, intuitive, and heart-centered leader. I want to dive into a deeper conversation around this connection between heart, soul, and semen, and where they unite together in a man's body. And this is really one of the journeys that we'll be looking at today, is how can you as a man be connected to this mystery, this connection point of your seed, of this white gooey substance that comes out of you at a point of, you could say, ejaculation. For one, is differentiating the point between orgasm and ejaculation. How many of you are aware that they're two different things? Amazing. Love that we have an advanced group here. Yeah, and that point alone is something that I find a lot of male bodies aren't really connected to. And when we can recognize that our body can be in orgasmic energy, and we can connect that orgasmic energy to a point of our purpose, our connection point to something beyond the body, but in the body, we can begin to unify the way in which we relate to our seed, to the way in which we relate to our heart, to the way in which we relate to our soul's purpose. And heart and soul, to me, are very closely connected. In this alignment of our body, when we can generate some of our eros and rise it up into our heart and our emotional body up into our heart, and when we can take some of our mind's understanding and drop it down into our heart actually has a deeper capacity to make decision-making in our life. If you've ever studied anything like heart math, which is a great discipline that really looks at the neural pathways that are inside the heart that actually have a greater decision-making capacity for us than our mind. The analogy I often like to look at when we're looking at the relationship between our heart and our mind, for me, is looking at a ship. On a ship, you often have a co-navigator and a navigator. And the co-navigator assimilates information. The navigator is the one that is the decision maker. So the co-navigator takes the tide and the current and the information outside and then offers it to the navigator as a way of saying, this is what's happening. The navigator takes that and then makes a decision, left 20, right 20, slow down, you need to pause, whatever that may be for the vessel. Now, as operating ships, especially on a cruise ship, there would always be two navigators on the bridge. Most people in their lives, their mind is the navigator and their heart is their co-navigator. And I find for a male body to be more integrated and aligned, it's the heart actually being the navigator and the mind just doing what it's meant to do, assimilate information. And this goes back into this equanimous principle we were talking about before, that when the mind can recognize the equanimous nature of the world that it's living in, with the good and the bad and the kind and the cruel, then it actually can utilize that information, offer it to the heart, the closest connected point to the soul, to then make a decision that's aligned to our heart's wisdom rather than our mind's concepts and ideas and beliefs. Does this make sense? And how this then connects to our seed is that if you're arising and eros is starting to rise in your body, then that seed, when it rises and you begin to circulate it in a multi-orgasmic nature, and that seed rising up into the heart, which often happens in lovemaking, a man's cock usually needs to be turned on first before his heart opens, vice versa for a female body, which is often the cosmic joke of relating. So the female body needs her heart to be opened before her yoni opens, and a man's heart opens after his cock is turned on. So we're often like two ships in the night passing each other like, meh, meh, meh. You don't understand me, you don't understand me. I just need you to touch my cock, please. Don't touch my yoni first. And all these things that circulate around relating. So as your eros turns on as a man, and then you can have those divine inspirations that connect you to God, connect you to the divine essence of what your life is really about. But that requires having a healthy, conscious relationship with your seed. If your seed is just something that you throw out onto a napkin on a Friday morning, then it's just, which is generally how many men are taught about their seed. It's not like something a lot of dads have a conversation with their son about. So, son, today we're going to talk about your divine ejaculate. That's the cosmic representation of your human experience. Anybody have a conversation like that? I know I didn't. And so this is the white mystery, the white tent, this sacred elixir that's inside of our body. And because we don't often have that conversation, it's often just looked at something we need to spew over someone's face, because that's what we watch in porn movies, or with so much shame around it that we need to hide and be very quiet and still, because if mom or dad heard us masturbating, oh my God, a mortal sin, which is what the church teaches us. So our relationship with our seed is pretty fucked. I know for myself, the first time I tasted my own seed, I could feel the layers of shame of oh my God, what does this mean? I'm tasting my own seed. All it means is I'm tasting my own seed. There can be 1,000 beliefs of what that does mean, but I would highly recommend, if you've never tasted your own seed, to invite that elixir back into your body. Do you know how many children could be made from one ejaculation? Anyone? A fuck ton. But a lot. It's like millions and millions. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but a lot of children. So there's a lot of life force there. So imagine with this life force, if we can circulate that life force through our body in a way that actually aligns us to our DMT, that connects us to our soul and spirit, then we become this generating energetic frequency of creativity, of manifestation. And so rather than just spewing the seed out onto a body or a napkin, we can learn how to transmute that seed, transmutation, through sublimation. So we're transmuting the form of that seed. Same way as an ice cube, if I had an ice cube here, it's going to melt into my hand. So when I can take the seed itself and transmute it into my body, into orgasmic alive energy, and then connect that into my soul purpose, then we're beginning to dance in the place of, you could say, sex magic, or really ultimately body magic, because we haven't been taught this at a young age. And so what we want to look at is how you, as a man, can connect to this sacred elixir, your heart's purpose, and what it is that you're here doing and breathing and manifesting in this lifetime. And one of the greatest lessons for me around heart and seed and soul is how are you showing up in relationship with another, whether it's with a female body or a male body, whatever it may be. And in that relationship, are you showing up in integrity, or are you losing yourself in that relationship? And this is often where a man's heart opens the most, is inside relationship, because sex is happening. But then when his heart opens, if he's not connected to his own alignment, then he might just project all of his own feminine aliveness onto the female partner or male partner. How many of you have done this before? And so instead of knowing this sacred power and elixir and potency inside of you, which is your everythingness, you're like, I love you, Shakti. You are my everythingness, and I forgot about myself. So we get lost in relationships. So the invitation to come back home into our own heart, into our own power, into our own sacred, magical elixir of potency and creativity is to take that projection off of the person on the outside and start to know, just as we started to discover more yesterday, that dance between masculine and feminine. When you know your own inner queen and you know your own inner king, then they can be in relationship together, dancing, making love, connecting. And then when you have this sacred relationship to your heart, to your seed, to your soul purpose, and you meet a beloved from that space, you can actually begin to have a three-way connection with God. And this is where a lot of the normal codependency relationship paradigms can fall away, and you can create interdependency, where I'm knowing my own inner union, she's knowing her own inner union, and together in communication, in lovemaking, in connection, we unify and we begin to have that three-way connection to God. But if you're trying to do that without knowing yourself as whole and just getting lost in Shakti, eventually some part of you is going to feel unaligned, is going to feel empty, is going to feel resentful, is going to feel like, oh, I'm giving you so much. Oh my God, I'm giving you so much. How many of you have done this in relationship? Because there's a part of getting lost in Shakti, and it's easy. The universe is a beautiful place. I love getting lost in the universe. It's like, cool. But if I don't know that universe, that aliveness, that everythingness, that magnetism inside of me, that creative spark inside of me, then I'm going to project it onto her. But if I do know it inside of me and I have my sacred relationship to seed, I have my relationship to my heart and my soul, and I'm on purpose and I'm living aligned, then that's actually where you can begin to have the spaciousness inside divine, sacred union with another, rather than codependent relationship with another. And this is a big differentiating piece. So I'm connecting a few different dots along the way to help unify this central alignment for you as a man to be able to step forth from this space, knowing yourself as whole rather than needing to be complete by another. Deep breath in.
And I've deeply lived this. I remember when I was 26 and I met the mother of my children, I felt this completion with her, that this insecurity that I had within me was safe with her. And when I met her, she was actually applying to become a Buddhist nun and go live in Canada in an ashram. And she actually was denied access because they were completely full. And there was this thing of, oh my God, because I was already very interested in Buddhism and that was a philosophy that I aligned with. And now there's this woman who's deeply in this service. So like her values are just exactly where I want my values to be. So I'm just going to take all of my values, put them aside, and I'm just going to own her values and adopt them as my own. And that felt like the right thing to do because she was magical in my world. And there was this moment where when we went into separation, I was like, I've got absolutely no fucking idea who I am. I've got no idea. Like, I was so insecure about who I was because I gave her all of my power to her, to the relationship, to the family. Like, everything was about making this stable. And I would just fill the gaps as opposed to be complete and be a part of that. And I joke that I didn't even know what my favorite ice cream flavor was. So what I would do is if I went to go and have ice cream with someone, I'd be like, oh, are they more of a sorbet kind of person? Or maybe they're like a chocolate or hazelnut kind of guy. And then I'd just be like, through association, maybe if we have the same kind of ice cream, they'll love me. That's how insecure I was about my own truth. And that was when I had the invitation to come into Tantra, because it was like, I need to know who the fuck I am. And the only way I can do that is go into a field, not only where the boundaries are wide open, that I need to then start honoring my own boundaries, because we've joked before, that big black 12-inch dildo actually is a no for me. But then from there, I started to really develop, okay, what is my truth? What do I like? What don't I like? I started to build this relationship with myself. And as all of you met yesterday, I have this inner feminine called Jade. And it's probably about 15 years ago now that I married myself. And I gave myself a ring, and I devoted my primary relationship to this relationship. And every relationship from now on is double dating. My masculine and feminine meets my partner's masculine and feminine. And there is this beautiful dynamic of my masculine being deeply in love with her feminine, and my feminine having these beautiful relationships with her feminine. But maybe my masculine and her masculine, they just like fucking butt heads. And it's just this power struggle that happens as soon as she's in her masculine and I'm in my masculine. And it's just like, we both want our own way. And life seems really good until one of these kind of topics comes up where we're both in our masculine. It's like, why is this part always so uncomfortable in our relationship? And it comes through these different dynamics that we have within us that, you know, does my man love your man? Does my man respect your man? And these are the dynamics that we can get to, but we really need to take ownership of what is it that I need here to complete myself in my relationship so that I don't need you. And there's this beautiful phrase of, you can't want anything that you need, because you need it. There's no desire. There's a life-giving need to complete myself through this person. And then if that then starts to lean away, then I start to feel this vacuum within myself, and I need to grasp at it and save it and make sure that I appease whatever that is so that it stays, so that I don't fall apart. And then we start giving away our power. I give away my power so that they stay near me, and all of a sudden, my power becomes less and less and less and less. And I remember just before I started separating with my partner, I had this feeling that I was like this energetic ball. And my partner's energetic ball was like this. And what that meant, that I was here and I felt trapped underneath her energetic field, because hers was amplified by all of mine and her own. And there's no blame or shame towards her about that. That was my choice to give up my power. Right? In any dynamic like this, it takes two to tango. And I am 100% present. And if I give my power away, that is my choice, not her fault. And now being in a place of deeply committed and connected to all aspects of myself, being in the dark and the light and the masculine and the feminine, that I am in a place now with my new beloved where I feel so rich in my being that I just want to give to her and give to her. And there's nothing that I need. And at the same time, I can deeply receive what she offers and just love her and appreciate it and honor her. But I don't need her. And when it came to this connection within myself around, these relationships of honoring my heart, honoring my sex, and honoring my head. It was almost like a one or the other scenario, not I'm activated in all three and sharing from all three. I'm either in my sex and completely disconnected kind of from my heart and my head, or I'm all in my heart, but then now my sex is kind of a little bit disconnected. And being able to be in those places of like, I feel activated in my sex with my partner, and my heart is just so deeply open and responsive to her. And at the same time, like our consciousnesses are just looking at all of the availabilities in the world, because when we open our crown and we open to those Akashic records, everything is there. And the safety that I feel inside my being now in relationship is something I've never experienced before. Because of the stability and the safety that I feel within myself, that I don't need to create it outside in relating. Receiving a breath. Wow.
So continue on that piece around safety, because I feel like the aspect of a male body that often gets not recognized is when we're constantly projecting and needing to support the safety of others before supporting the safety of ourselves. And a lot of times male bodies don't actually exist in their body, and they're in their head because they don't feel safe in their body. Because at a very young age, we were told to not cry, to not be upset, to not be angry, and to get your grades, to be logic, to be understanding, to be reason. And so naturally, when arguments come up inside relationships, what do we often try to do? Solve the problem. And what does the feminine, whether it's in male body or female body, feel to that? You can't feel me! But what's your problem? I want to solve the problem. I want to fix you because I need to create safety for you because I don't feel safe inside myself. And when you can know safety inside yourself, then when there is a problem or the illusion of a problem on the outside, rather than needing to fix it and go at it with logic, reason, and understanding, you can just be with it. And the feminine in all beings doesn't ever care about solutions. She just wants to feel understood, received, and loved. Anyone ever hear that from a woman you're in a relationship with? Yeah. And you're like, but I figured it out, honey. I have the solution. I don't care about the solution.
Like, how could you not care about the solution? Like, there's a problem. Like, where is the logic in that?
There's a great YouTube video. It's popping in my brain right now. It's called "It's Not About the Nail." Anyone seen this? And it's a woman with just a nail in her forehead, and the guy's like, she's like, yeah, I'm having all this pain in my head, and it's really challenging. And he's like, yeah, I understand. And you have a nail in your head. It's like, it's not about the nail. You're not listening to me. That's the essence of it. It's like, but it's very clear what's going on here. You have a nail in your... No! Listen to me. Feel me. And so this is the dialogue that goes on. And that's so... I'll send you the video. It's great. And this is the dynamic balance between this masculine and feminine. And for you as a male body to get in touch with that part of you that just wants to be understood, that knows it's not about the nail, that you're like, there's a nail in my forehead, but I just want to be understood. When you can start to empathetically know that feeling inside of you, then you can meet the opposite sex, you can meet relationship with more of a whole picture. Ultimately, and I say this quite often, but when you know the crazy, irrational bitch inside of you, then you can have more appreciation and empathy and understanding for the crazy, irrational bitch that's on the outside. And then it's like, what I see in you, I know in me. And the result of that is you come back home into your body. You come back home into knowing yourself as whole rather than being fragmented. And when you know yourself as whole, then you can exist more in the heart space. You can exist more in the body space. And you're not always trying to figure out solutions, but rather you're vibrating and being and expressing yourself from your totality and not just your mind. What I do love is I feel more and more men on this planet realize that they're in their mind too much. Like the fact that that's even in awareness, like some of the guys I speak to that aren't really in this body of field, but they're like, I realize I'm in my mind a lot. Don't know what that means, but I realize that that's happening. That to me, I'm like, wow, we're evolving. Because the stubbornness to not even have that recognition means we're so far away from the body, it's like across in Antarctica. But when we can at least recognize, wow, I'm in my mind a lot, and I'd like to be more in my body. That was part of the, inspiration in writing a whole book called The Embodied Man, was to at least help out men on this planet to get out of the mind into the body. And the beautiful thing about that book is I actually really wrote it for both genders, but I knew that if I wrote it directly towards men, at least they would pick up the book. Women are going to pick it up anyways. I'd probably have more sales from female bodies than male bodies for that book. Because they're like, I want to understand, I want to figure out, I want to get to know men. And men are like, oh, embodied man, oh, maybe I'll read this. If it wasn't like speaking directly to them, they never pick it up. But this is a place of actually like dropping into the body, is it can be scary. And that's the thing I'll kind of wrap this all up with, is to drop into the body, into our seed, into our heart, means we have to surrender more deeply into the mystery. The body isn't a place that's filled with logic, reason, and understanding. Science might try to show you that, but the number of unembodied doctors I've met speaks quite broadly to how fucked up we are. Because it's not a direct solution of analyzing every little piece of the body that gets us into the body. That just gets into the mind controlling the body. And the body is so done with that, and that's why it's streaming out. That's why when people have too many drinks, or have too much weed, or whatever it may be, the body goes a bit wild because finally the mind slows down and the body can start to take over. So what we want to do is unify this dance between mind, heart, and genitals. So that's getting in deeper relationship with our seed, with our sex, so that that energy rises up into the heart, the energy of the mind drops into the heart, and we can actually live life more connected. You could say a heart-centered warrior, a heart-centered man, a man that's connected to all the centers and knows how to live and breathe and express from that place and isn't afraid of meeting the world with an open heart. And he's been able to feel all the times in the past when maybe his heart was broken. Because a lot of men put up massive force fields to the outside because there's such a tenderness inside of them that they're like, nobody's ever getting in there again. I did that once, not doing it again. How many of you relate to that feeling? You're like, that was so scary and fearful and afraid. I'm not going to do that again. So there's massive force fields at this heart, but the heart's just screaming out, please, love me, feel me. And what happens as a result? Male suicide rates go like this. Because men don't feel like they have any place to go, to be, to express. Which is why conscious brotherhood circles men coming together to express in this way is so vital and important in our society.